Boy, it's amazing the amount of stuff you can catch up on when the threat of infectious diseases with disastrous long-term health consequences is setting the world on fire. How are you folks, my name's Traven and today I want to talk about my top things of spring 2020. For anyone new to the channel who has no idea what this is because I'm bad at explaining it, or just isn't familiar with the series that inspired it, like Super Eye Patch Wolf's My Favorite Things, Clemps' Things I Loved, or any of the other monthly, seasonal, or even yearly media merch roundup videos with titles like What I Watched, What I Read, and etc. This is a seasonal series in which I review and recommend some of my favorite things from the last few months, with the occasional out-of-season straggler that I probably wouldn't cover otherwise. Essentially, I'm just gonna ramble about stuff I liked recently for about 20 or so minutes. And if you notice that a particular thing isn't here, it probably means one or two of a couple of things. I didn't get around to it, even if I did enjoy it, I have too many caveats to properly recommend it. I just didn't like it. I don't actually have a lot to say about it, beyond I thought it was pretty good, or it's more of what I liked. Or I'm hoping to eventually dedicate a whole video to it, but even then I still try to give it a quick mention. Emphasis on the word try. So, with all that exposition out of the way, let's start this glorified listicle with a little... Parasite is a South Korean black comedy thriller directed by Bong Joon-ho and produced by Berenson Iane about the Kims, a family living on the knife's edge of poverty who scheme their way into the employment of a wealthy family, the Parks. But when a former housekeeper returns unexpectedly one evening, things quickly spiral out of control. This film has gotten a lot of praise, and personally, I think it more than deserves it. The direction and editing is phenomenal, flowing fluidly from shot to shot with precisely picked imagery and cuts. Something that's particularly impressive to see in the early montage showing one of the Kim's plans unfolding seamlessly, and whose cinematography cleverly captures and frames the nuances of its environment, characters, and the relationships to one another. It carefully balances its comedy and tragedy, one moment making me laugh at their mad dash to clean up before the Kims return home, and the next... well, I don't want to spoil it, but I will say it leaves quite the uncomfortable impact. That same sense of balance between elements both heavy and light can also be seen in the characters and their respective actors' performances, all with their own dramatic depth and comedic timing.
자화상이에요.
With my personal favourite being Ki-jung, or Jessica, the daughter of the Kim family, whose deadpan demeanour complements the chaotic energy of the rest of the cast. But more than just being well made on a technical level, it's also quite poignant on a thematic one, as it explores the class division between the Park and Kim families, and more importantly, how that divide reinforces itself. In spite of the Kim's desperate moves up the economic ladder, they're constantly reminded of their position by everything around them. Whether it be the stark difference in mentalities and experiences between themselves and the members of the Park family, or things as small as the specific scent of the Kim's semi-basement home becoming an issue for the Parks. It's almost depressing as its world seems defined by this inescapable disparity whose trickle-down structure at best makes it too wet to climb, and at worst floods it so badly that what few people who make some progress get knocked back down to square one by things outside their control. Parasite is a technical and thematic masterpiece I think more than easily lives up to the hype surrounding it. Better Call Saul is a crime drama created by Vince Gilligan and Peter Gold and produced by High Bridge Productions, Crystal Diner Productions, Grand Via Productions, and Sony Pictures Television that acts as a prequel and spin-off to the critically acclaimed Breaking Bad series, which follows Jimmy McGill, a wisecracking con man turned small-time lawyer, as he descends into the shady world of drug trafficking and becomes the titular criminal for hire Saul Goodman. I initially had my hesitations about the show when it first started, but as it's progressed, it's only gone from strength to strength, so much so I actually prefer it over its predecessor. It's tense and dramatic, but has a satirical spin that puts it all into perspective, grounding its melodramatic through lines while heightening their dangerous reality. Something that's clear to see when Jimmy's fast-talking insecurity is put up against the malicious confidence and competence of the drug lords he gets involved with.
How was your lovely abuelita?
You know, Tuco told me about you. You're the guy with a mouth.
and at times it can be hard to watch in a good way, since due to its nature as a prequel, the inevitability of many of its characters' arcs are clear, making everything they try to do to be better people a painful effort and futility, as against their better judgment they slowly slip into old habits that transform them into the characters everyone already knows and loves later on, whether it be Mike's attempts to provide for his granddaughter and daughter-in-law keeping him tethered to the cartel, Nacho's desperation to protect his dad leaving him in debt to both Fring and the Salamancas, or Jimmy's need to con and scam pushing him from criminal lawyer to criminal lawyer. All the while, it makes me dread the fates of the series' newcomers and what their unconfirmed narrative paths could possibly lead to, especially for those who end up taking too much of an influence from those whose futures have already been decided.
It's not you. Okay, you would not be okay with it. Not in the cold light of day. What now?
And this 5th season takes it all to another level, pulling everyone past the point of no return, as their messy ties to the criminal underworld become too tangled for them to escape from, forcing them to confront and come to terms with this sobering revelation for better and for worse.
Your client has $7 million. Where'd it come from?
It's not for me to ask where a client gets his money.
The 5th season of Better Call Saul's tragic character drama has been the best of the series, and, for me at least, the franchise yet. Beastars is an anime series that got stuck in Netflix trailer for too long, directed by Shinichi Matsumi, animated by Studio Orange, and based on the manga of the same name by Paru Itagaki, set in an anthropomorphic world of carnivores and herbivores, that follows the increasingly messy web of relationships between the students of Cherryton Academy as they try to get by in this hostile world, and... well, I already made a whole ass video about this series quite recently, so there's not a lot I can say here that I didn't already go into excruciating detail about in that video. So, to grossly oversimplify, it's a fun and captivating show full of romance, drama, and edgy bullshit, with some fantastic animation, art direction, music, and a lot to say about society that I think is well worth checking out. RWBY is an animated web series originally created by Monty Ohm and produced by Rooster Teeth, set in the fantasy world of Remnant, where horrifying monsters called Grimm run rampant, and are kept at bay by fearsome warriors known as huntsmen and huntresses, and follows the adventures of 4 huntresses in training, Ruby, Weiss, Blake, and Yang, as they traverse this vast and dangerous landscape, with this 7th season finding them caught in the middle of Mantle's brewing political turmoil. This season is the first time in a while I've not only wholeheartedly enjoyed RWBY, but thought it was just genuinely good. Sure, I have my nitpicks, especially about its early episodes, but as it goes on, it builds up an engrossing story full of betrayal and manipulation, and riddled with interpersonal drama. Its action scenes are some of the best I've seen from the series, with dynamic staging and impactful choreography that cleverly makes use of everyone's powers, capabilities, and the very environment they're fighting in. Its character redesigns are pretty damn cool, mostly. Jesus, John, what happened? And there's a solid core to its story about fear and failure that's captivating to watch it work through, and eventually ends on a note that makes me wonder if its characters will ever be able to fully come back from these events, as an absolute bombshell of a cliffhanger follows in their wake. It's been one of, if not my favorite, seasons so far. It's especially cool to see when you consider the rocky road that RWBY's been down over the last few years, following the loss of its original creator. I can only imagine how difficult it must have been for the crew to deal with, given that for many of them he was a close friend, and that I'm sure the at times overwhelming waves of upset and or critical fans only made even more difficult to process. Something I worry that some of my own videos only ended up contributing to. It couldn't have been easy to steer the show after losing its guiding light, but with this new season it feels like they found their footing again. They know what they want to do and where they want to take it, and I'm excited to see where it goes. Of course, I don't expect someone who's never watched it to suddenly blast through 70-something episodes just to get to some good ones, but for those who dropped it recently, I think it's worth giving another chance. Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken is an anime series directed by Masaki Uwasa, animated by Sain Saru, and based on the manga of the same name by Sumuto Owara, about a group of high school girls, Azukasa, Mizuzaki, and Kanamori, as they work through the trials and tribulations of making anime together. This show is just a joy to watch. Its rough aesthetic lends itself to more expressive animation and more experimentation, both in its technical details and its style. From the lineless look of its in-world animations, to the watercolor sketches of its main characters' imaginations. It complements the design of its world, set in this makeshift city of buildings built on top of each other, and connected by rickety boardwalks. Set up not where it makes the most sense, but just wherever there was space. In some cases having to make use of what's already there. Creating a cramped maze that's cozy and inviting, but all too easy to get lost in. An environment that itself reflects the chaotic energy of its main characters, who themselves are brimming with creative potential, and whose clashing ideals between the joy and artistry of animation and the cold, hard reality of its business is one of the biggest draws of the show. And on that note, for as great as Asukasa and Mizusaki's imaginative chemistry is, my favourite part of their trio is Kanamori. She may be cynical and callous, but her realistic practicality grounds the cast's zanier antics and keeps them focused, whether it be making their workflow more efficient so they can get their projects done on time, to taking advantage of every little thing she can to best produce and promote it, even if her methods slip into some shady territory sometimes.
この立派な資料は今後も有効に活用させてもらいます。
She's the glue that keeps it all together and whose mentality emphasizes the importance of aspects of such artistic pursuits that I think too often get ignored. But as much weight as it puts into that side of things, the show, more than anything else, has nothing but adoration for not just the animation process, but also of the creative process in general. From the lows of struggling to figure out what to do, the long nights wasting away to get it done, the stress and anxiety of feeling like nothing you do is working, to the highs of seeing your creation come to life, and the realization that people actually like what you've made. To even something as small as capturing the moment when that spark of creativity first flickers for someone. When something about that one old animated movie they watch catches their attention. アニメを作る人を初めて意識したのはこの時だった。 I mean, there's a part of me that feels weird about acknowledging the fact that streaming might one day be nostalgic for some people, but still. More than just being a celebration of anime and the medium of animation, the series feels like a celebration of creativity itself. One that by the end of each episode always leaves me with a smile as these hyperactive dorks get closer to bringing everything together. Keep Your Hands Off Eizouken is a show defined by its love for animation and creativity. Naya's Short Walk-On Girl is an anime film directed by Masaki Yuasa, animated by Science Saru, and based on the novel of the same name, written by Tomohiko Murumi and illustrated by Yusuke Nakamura, about the meandering misadventures of two university students, one simply wandering the city and the other trying to confess his feelings, as they stumble across their hometown and into stranger and stranger places and people as the night stretches on. And believe me, it really does get weird. There's a secret organization of men collecting old erotic paintings, a group of debaters who argue themselves into their opponents' perspectives, a food eating competition that gets so spicy the competitors start to have heat-induced hallucinations, there's a guardian spirit of books who just sorta hangs out and causes all sorts of manic mischief, an old Tengu man traversing the city with a drinking buddy, and a man who won't change his underwear until he completes his ultimate story of romance to reconnect with his soulmate? And that's just like the first half-ish hour? The imagery and animation makes it all the more bizarre, slowly building on itself until it explodes into a complete cacophony of chaos. It's a film whose structure almost feels stream of consciousness, one that, like the titular girl, simply walks on to see where it'll end up, and as a result tells a story about the importance of making the most of the opportunities that come your way now, instead of regretting not doing it later. It's absurd in such a sincere way that I can't help but appreciate it. Though I will admit there are a few questionable jokes and gags that do rub me the wrong way, and the way in which it ends up handling them just sort of leaves me thinking, fucking really? But even with that in mind, Naya's Short Walk-On Girl is a spectacle of earnest oddities I can't help but get swept up in. Midnight Gospel is an adult cartoon directed by Pendleton Ward, the creator of Adventure Time, and produced by Oatmeal Maiden and Titmouse Inc., about Clancy, a young man living in the Chromatic Ribbon with an illegal simulator who travels through its multiverse to find people to interview for his space cast. This show is defined by an intense juxtaposition of the mundane and the ridiculous.
Oh boy, come here, baby. I'm so excited. This is what I live for. Call the Grandma's Candy for us.
Its visuals are just trippy, filled with crazy imagery and even crazier characters, with its cartoony aesthetic and janky motion making it all the more surreal, giving it a sense of texture that somehow makes even its more abstract details more believable, and more zany at the same time, and, well, mostly just making its gags click together that bit better.
What does death look like to you? I think we need to simplify this.
And yet, with all these zany antics running rampant in the background, the focus of each episode is centered on laid-back chats between Clancy and the unique characters he runs into, only having the vaguest awareness of what's going on around them as their discussions reach some fascinating and sometimes emotional depths about all sorts of topics, ranging from the ethics of recreational drug use to spiritualism and mindfulness to the way we cope with grief and loss. It's almost like someone just decided to add some animation to a podcast. Which is actually kind of what happened, since the conversational portions of the show were actually excerpts taken from the podcast hosted by one of the show's co-creators, Duncan Trussell, a tidbit that just makes some of the later episodes hit a little too hard. For as eye-catching as its imagery is, it's the comparatively boring, quote-unquote, elements of the show and the solid emotional core that runs through the narrative they create that just makes it all work in a way I never would have expected when I initially stumbled into it. Midnight Gospel is a show whose mix of ridiculous visuals and comfy conversations makes for one of the most strangely compelling shows I've watched in a while. Animal Crossing New Horizons is a game directed by Aya Kyogoku and developed by Nintendo, where you play as a villager who flies off to a remote island getaway run by Tom Nook to build your dream village. I've never been much of an Animal Crossing person, outside of enjoying the occasional meme I saw pop out of it, but with all the hype surrounding this particular installment, I decided to give it a go, and it's really grown on me. It's just nice to play. The characters are friendly and wholesome, the aesthetic and designs are fun and adorable, except for some of the fish, Jesus fucking Christ. And it's filled with so many neat little activities to just relax with, whether it be taking the time to catch bugs and collect fossils, or arranging a flower garden, decorating a house, and designing some neat clothes. The last of which, I will admit, was a very big part of what initially got me interested in the first place. It pulls me in to just do my little bit each day and take a quick break from normal life. Something that, especially nowadays, is something I really appreciate. Though, for as much as the game is purpose-built to be a chill time, I do often find myself getting stuck in a loop of grinding my way through it, because old habits die hard, I guess. Ha 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 ha. Fuck's sake. That said, it's not without its issues. There are plenty of little things that drive me up the wall about it, from the fact I only get one island per console, to the ungodly amount of menus you have to go through just to do the simplest of things. I swear to God, Blathers, if you give me that rare fossil spiel one more time, I'm gonna rip your beak off, you swivel-headed But they are nitpicks, and the overall experience it provides is still one I adore. Animal Crossing New Horizons is a great game to chill with. Adding to my ever-growing list of I'm not a furry but media is the newest music video animated by Knights of the Light Table for Night Runner's Magnum Bullets, which follows the harrowing journey of a trio of technologically enhanced wolf people getting revenge on the criminal overlord who slaughtered their den. It's a lavish production drenched in neon lights and rich hues with an atmosphere grounded in all the trappings of 80s inspired cyberpunk nonsense that I love, characters whose designs cleverly play with the unique mix of technological and anthropomorphic details of its setting, and striking imagery that makes its haunting vocals that much more spectacular. It's a cool-ass video and a fantastic follow-up to the studio's previous work. In that same vein of neon-drenched goodness is the animated music video for Breakbot's Be Mine Tonight, which sees a shy young girl getting lost in the rhythm of a dance-based arcade game. While the lighting and color scheme are gorgeous and its characters' designs are really nice, what jumps out most to me is its animation, which balances a cartoonish level of exaggeration with realistic weight and momentum, flowing from lower frame rates that make every move hit harder, to hyper-smooth shots that I could just watch on loop all day. And some of those cuts are just stunning to watch. I mean, Christ, how the fuck did they manage to do this so fucking well with the warped perspective and everything? My god! There's a level of technical skill on display here that needs a lot more appreciation. And Okay, this next one isn't really a music video, but I don't know what the proper term would be, so... This Bon Appetit anime opening, edited by Hwang Hae-jing, is just so good. Not only does it capture the chaotic personality-driven energy that defines the Bon Appetit channel with such well-chosen clips, cuts, and transitions, but it also imbues it all with a strong anime-inspired atmosphere that it genuinely makes me think if it were animated, it could be the opening for an actual slice-of-life show about the daily lives of these professional chefs. It's just a fantastic little edit. I'm quite a fan of fight scenes, both in watching and writing them. However, I'm also painfully aware of how tricky they can be to get right. And that's where Hello Future Me's recent duology of videos on writing fight scenes have been quite a help. He goes into detail about the intricate nuances of what makes a good fight scene, using examples from all sorts of stories, and discusses the tips and tricks that can be learned from those examples about how to approach them. And that's filled with some genuinely insightful advice. Particularly the first one, which specifically dives into the micro details of what makes these scenes click on a moment-to-moment level, like word choice, sentence length, and more. An aspect of this topic I find doesn't get nearly enough consideration. Granted, the examples that are focused on are mostly prose and fantasy based, but the videos are written in such a way that I think the generalities of what's discussed can easily be extrapolated to other mediums and genres. They're a pair of interesting videos that I think can be a real help for anyone who may be struggling with this specific aspect of writing. And yeah, those are my thoughts. I will admit these last few months have been tough with the whole quarantine situation, and for me at least, the stress of it has only gotten worse over time. But a lot of this stuff's been a big help in dealing with that, and hopefully it might help other people too. Though if there is a silver lining to any of this, it's that I've actually been able to get through some of my backlog finally. And hell, some stuff isn't even on my backlog, I'm just getting a chance to finally make some progress through it. Like Death Stranding, which has taken on an almost surreal new context in this particular time. Still haven't beaten it, but I'm getting there at least. Anyway, hope yous are staying safe, washing your hands, all that jazz. Let me know if yous agree, disagree, what your top things of spring 2020 were, what you're looking forward to in the next few months. If there's any particular thing that's been especially helpful for you during these quarantines, so to speak, etc. And thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this and want to see more, check out my last video, where I talk about all the weird details of Beastars and why, for me, they make it so great. Or watch me ramble about what I love about the 2012 animated Disney short film Paperman. And don't forget to like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe to come fly with me. Hit the bell, stay notified, follow me on Twitter for more updates, ramblings, and poor attempts at humor, and hopefully, I'll see yous later.